Right, so in its heyday, Ring of Honor was the most influential indie pro wrestling company in the world, and a wrestling company that goes down in history for housing some of the biggest stars we know in wrestling today in the early stages of their careers. Guys like CM Punk, Seth Rollins, the Young Bucks, Sami Zayn, Kevin Steen, Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, and many, many more. Ring of Honor had a solid spot in the wrestling scene and were a stalwart wrestling promotion. However, the rise of NXT and the eventual formation of AEW led to pretty much all of Ring of Honor's top talent getting sniped, and 2019 through 2021 for Ring of Honor were very tumultuous times, as the roster was weaker, the product was weaker, attendances were down, and there was all sorts of drama going on with Joey Mercury and Bully Ray allegedly bringing a fan backstage to confront him and that awful MSG show. Some of those incidents I can do standalone videos on, and I probably should. Leave a like if you would like to see that. However, when Ring of Honor would return from COVID in 2021, they had all these big major plans in the pipeline, and the product was for sure better than it was before COVID. However, it still wasn't anything super special. It didn't really stand out in that current wrestling landscape, and unfortunately it didn't really change anything with attendances and the viewers watching. And in October of 2021, only 3 months after their return to broadcast, Ring of Honor would announce that the company would be going back on hiatus after Final Battle in December. It was sad but not so surprising news to hear, as the recent Q3 financial results had showed that Sinclair had $12.5 million in debt. The Ring of Honor belts would continue to function with the likes of Jonathan Gresham and Deonna Purrazzo holding them, and that seemed to be it for Ring of Honor. Nobody knew when they were going to come back and if they were going to come back at any point, and it wouldn't be until March of 2022 when AEW founder Tony Khan, live on Dynamite, would announce the acquisition of Ring of Honor. Obviously this is stuff we all know, but at the time this was a super exciting announcement from Tony Khan, as fans awaited to see what he would do with the Ring of Honor product, as the first Ring of Honor pay-per-view, Supercard of Honor, that took place after the purchase was a great success. It featured the return of Samoa Joe, as he had just been released by WWE. Things felt hopeful. However, things would go quiet on Ring of Honor, as it was reported that they were unable to find any sort of TV deal, as the Ring of Honor belts would take over AEW TV and it would just cause confusion. And at the end of 2022, Tony Khan announced that Ring of Honor's broadcasting deal would begin starting 2023 on Honor Club, their own subscription service. They weren't able to find a TV broadcaster, and the Ring of Honor weekly product since then has felt totally unimportant and like AEW Dark Light. I feel like ever since the Ring of Honor weekly TV was brought back, nobody ever talks about it and hardly anyone even watches it. Most Ring of Honor tapings are done before or after an AEW TV taping, when there's hardly anyone in the crowd there and it's completely dead quiet. And as I said, most Ring of Honor TV matches are just glorified dark matches. Yeah, anytime I've ever watched Ring of Honor weekly TV, it's felt flat and boring and it's felt the same every episode. The only time it ever felt different was when they were doing episodes from the esports arena in Arlington, Texas during that residency. And it was reported at that time that Ring of Honor were going to undergo major changes to the brand, but of course that never happened. One thing that bringing back the Ring of Honor weekly show did was get all of the Ring of Honor belts off of AEW TV. The only Ring of Honor title that really remained on AEW TV consistently post Honor Club and post Ring of Honor weekly TV coming back was the Ring of Honor World Championship, as Claudio Castagnoli was the belt holder as we went into that new era, as he was a frequent member of AEW TV with the Blackpool Combat Club and would carry around the belt. Eddie Kingston would then beat him for it as he won it in the Continental Classic. Again, another person who would appear on AEW TV frequently holding the belt. Mark Briscoe would then do it and was the same, and in my opinion, Mark Briscoe was the best representation Ring of Honor had in years. And then after Mark Briscoe, Chris Jericho won it. And now Chris Jericho being made Ring of Honor champion was a very interesting decision. It had been done 3 years prior actually, with him and Claudio Castagnoli feuding over it, but at that time it was actually alright, mainly due to the fact that at that point the Ring of Honor title was more or less just a secondary title on AEW TV. But when Chris Jericho was the Ring of Honor champion, things were bad. He wasn't appearing on Ring of Honor weekly TV at all, which the other champions were doing whilst they also did AEW appearances. Chris Jericho only exclusively appeared on AEW with the Ring of Honor belt, and the feuds were done on AEW TV. It made no sense. He'd only show up at the Ring of Honor pay-per-views, often to work terrible matches like the one with Matt Cardona at Final Battle, a match that just doesn't encapsulate Ring of Honor whatsoever. And yeah, amongst many of Ring of Honor's problems, like the fact they don't have a TV deal, the way the shows are presented and booked, the quality of the shows, it's been said that Chris Jericho winning the Ring of Honor title is the final nail in the coffin for this current iteration of Ring of Honor. And to be honest, I think it might kind of be true in a way, and let me explain why. Let me explain why following Chris Jericho's reign, it might kind of be curtains and hopeless for this Ring of Honor brand. So obviously the main thing that is holding back Ring of Honor from truly growing is the fact they don't have a broadcasting deal. If we really want to think about it and really put it down to it, that's the reason why AEW and Tony Khan will never try to upgrade any part of Ring of Honor, because they don't have a deal, they don't have a reason to do it. When Chris Jericho won the Ring of Honor Championship and was frequently appearing with it on AEW TV, the one constant defense and constant justification as to why this was happening and why it's actually okay was the fact that AEW and Tony Khan were shopping around Ring of Honor to broadcasters, and having Chris Jericho as the champion could be a good selling point to get them on a broadcasting deal. It has now been nearly a year since Chris Jericho first won the Ring of Honor Championship, 6 months since he lost it, and of course, there is no broadcasting deal to be heard of. It didn't work and ended up just kind of being a waste of everybody, and especially Ring of Honor and their roster's time. I actually watched an episode of Ring of Honor whilst Chris Jericho was champion for this channel, and the episode was just awful. It was full of squash matches, full of AEW dark guys and jobbers that I don't care about. The longest match was 6.5 minutes, and Chris Jericho only appeared in it in a backstage segment. He had no other involvement in the show whatsoever, and when I watched that, it's like, yeah, no shit, no broadcaster wants to take this on. But yeah, of course, as I said, Chris Jericho has long lost the Ring of Honor World Championship now and has disappeared from AEW TV as a whole, as Bandito is now the Ring of Honor champion and appears with it on AEW TV as well. And by all accounts, Bandito has done absolute wonders for that belt, as his match quality has been far superior to Chris Jericho's, and he's got that world title back on track. But the question is, has the product got better with Bandito as champion, and was it Chris Jericho who was holding them back? There's only one way to find out. And that is, of course, with Cage Match, the most reliable and objective rating service. That is, of course, sarcasm. So if we're looking at around the time Jericho won the Ring of Honor Championship, he won it around October 2024 and lost it in April of 2024. So looking at some of these ratings on the side, it's a whole lot of 4s and 5s. The only 6 you're ever going to see is for pay-per-views. You can see Final Battle got one. Other than that, 4s, 5s. There's a 6 here for the Chris Jericho Cruise episode, which I'm guessing had loads of actual AEW talent on it. Yep, Konosuke Takeshita and Ricochet, who are never on Ring of Honor otherwise. 6.5 on this episode and a 7 on this episode. Wow, a great streak there. A couple more 6s here, but it's mostly 4s and 5s and pretty average TV up until Bandito wins the belt, and more or less the same 4s, 5s, a few 6s appearing. Maybe there's more 6s than there was with Chris Jericho's reign. Again, very low bar that we're celebrating 6 out of 10 episodes for Ring of Honor. But to be honest, this isn't doing any justice or any favors. There is a much better way to check this out. There is a much better way to actually investigate this other than just looking at Cage Match ratings. Okay, I guess another way to find out is by actually watching a Ring of Honor episode now Bandito is champion, similarly to how I watched a Chris Jericho episode whilst he was champion, and compare the two. So yeah, let's talk about last Thursday's Ring of Honor on Honor Club from the 25th of September 2025. This is episode 134 of Ring of Honor on Honor Club, which is kinda mad. 134 episodes of just kinda nothing, really. This show opens with Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito against Dralistico in a Proving Ground match, a great way to open the show, a serious match. It was a fun match too, pretty good stuff here. Then after the match, The Swirl, aka Lee Johnson and Blake Christian attack Bandito, with Blake Christian holding up the belt. Is that gonna be the next program? As afterwards, Hologram and Commander make the save. So maybe it'll be a tag program, but we'll see. As next up, the premier athletes of Tony Nese, Arya Daivari, and Big Tall Story Denali defeated JD Inc., Rebecca Scott, and El Magnifico in a squash match here. There always has to be one on a Ring of Honor show. Yeah, Story Denali, she is quite an interesting wrestler, right? I guess this is someone that Ring of Honor are going to be looking to build up on the brand, which is something they need. They need stars that are specific to Ring of Honor. Then we had a vignette with the Blue Meanie and the Frat House. Is he joining? Is he an official member now? And we had a Pure Rules match with Deonna Purrazzo and Viva Van. This is not a tournament match, despite the fact there is actually a Pure Rules tournament match for the women's title later on in the night, and Deonna Purrazzo is in that tournament, but no, this isn't a tournament match, it's just a match. Since this tournament's been announced and Deonna Purrazzo was announced in it, she has had 5 Pure Rules matches that aren't tournament matches. Surely Deonna Purrazzo has to win this tournament. She's been built up like crazy. But yeah, I'm just glad to see Deonna Purrazzo getting minutes. She's one of my favorites on the entire AEW Ring of Honor roster, and I think she should 100% be the first pure champion. She had a nice match here with Viva Van. I thought Viva Van was really impressive in here as well, the way she pushed the pace. And Deonna Purrazzo, of course, picks up the win, as our next match is a Ring of Honor Women's World Television Championship match. Mina Shirakawa defends against Lacey Lane, who you might remember as Kaden Carter in the WWE. Mina Shirakawa is appearing frequently with the Ring of Honor Women's TV belt. I believe she's the interim champion, as Red Velvet remains the lineal champion, but she's being a fighting champion here is Mina Shirakawa, as she defeats Lacey Lane in a nice match once again. One thing I'm liking about this show is the matches feel competitive and they actually feel like matches that matter. They're not just squash matches with one guy who's obviously going to win and a jobber. Then we had a Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship match as LFI, aka Roosh, and Sammy Guevara, who joined the faction in a crazy move, faced the Von Erichs, Sammy Guevara's former friends and partners, as himself and Dustin were aligned with them, of course. Yeah, good story-driven match. It's nice to have a match of this stake on the show with a story that's been built up on AEW TV. It makes it feel like it actually does kind of matter. And yeah, good work from all the lads. LFI get the win here, as I'm constantly left wondering now with Andrade a free agent again, if he rejoins LFI, him and Sammy in the same stable is hilarious. We had a backstage confrontation between Deonna Purrazzo and Trish Adora, who are going to be the actual match in the Ring of Honor Pure Title Tournament. I think that should be Deonna Purrazzo's next match, hopefully. And the main event is a match I alluded to earlier, as it's an actual Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title Tournament quarter-final match, Olympia versus Billie Starkz. This match blew my mind because it went over 10 minutes. I do not remember the last time I watched Ring of Honor and a match went over 10 minutes. Olympia is a CMLL wrestler. It was interesting to see these two having a Pure Rules match, given both of them are very high-risk competitors, but they did the job very well. It was nice to see a tournament match getting time and making the tournament seem like it's actually important. And yeah, good main event. Billie Starkz gets the win and she's up to the next round of the Ring of Honor Women's Pure Title Tournament. My guess is she's going to face Serena Deeb in the next round, and then Deonna Purrazzo will be the one to face Queen Aminata in the next round, and I reckon it will be a Deonna and Serena Deeb final. So yeah, going back to Cage Match to compare the Chris Jericho episode to the Bandito episode, the one with Chris Jericho as champion had a rating of 4.11, which is not very good. And this one, whilst it hasn't got an official rating yet because only 3 people have reviewed it, it's got 6.67 as its average rating, which I'd probably give my rating around there. 6.5 I'd probably say is my rating for this episode. I thought it was alright. I thought the main event and co-main especially delivered. I enjoyed the Pure Rules match, and overall it just felt like there was more star power than usual on this card, and I think this is a good base Ring of Honor roster that they had on this show. Yeah, I'm surprised to say I actually kind of enjoyed an episode of Ring of Honor on Honor Club, so maybe the theory that Bandito has uplifted this product and Chris Jericho was the one weighing it down might be true. But yeah, overall, for the future of Ring of Honor, I don't know what the future of the brand really is going to be. If they weren't able to get a broadcasting deal while Chris Jericho was the champion, then will they ever? And that's kind of why I'm saying, is it kind of over for the brand? Is the brand really dead? Was the fact that Chris Jericho wasn't able to get them a TV deal the nail in the coffin? In terms of popularity and in terms of presentation, I don't think it's ever going to improve for Ring of Honor, but I think Ring of Honor is going to be around for at least a few years longer because Tony Khan has unlimited money. If he wants to keep it going, he can. But yeah, if you watched the recent Ring of Honor episode, which you probably didn't, let me know in the comments down below what you thought, and let me know also what you thought of this video. Like it if you did enjoy, subscribe, notifications on so you never miss a video on the Top 10 Wrestling channel. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.